Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu unserem vierten Livestream, wenn ich mich nicht verzählt habe. Ich bin Thomas Borchert vom Fliegermagazin. Schön, dass ihr dabei seid. Wir sind heute auf dem Stand von Cirrus, wo ich zwei Gesprächspartner habe, die nur Englisch sprechen, und deshalb wechseln wir jetzt in diese Sprache. And I'm switching to English as I just announced. And right next to me there's Ivy MacIver, Director, SR Product Line. Hi,
nice
Ivy.
to see you. Yeah, good to be here.
And Robert Bucher, is that how you pronounce it?
I think so.
Okay, all right. Robert Bucher is sales engineer with the Vision Jet, right? Okay, yeah. So we have the jet expert here, piston engines here. Before we get started, I'll switch briefly back to German. Wie ihr wisst, jeder, der hier heute einen Kommentar hinterlässt, eine Frage stellt, kann etwas gewinnen. Ich blende das auch gerade mal hier unten ein. Etwa so. Und zwar ist es dieser wunderbare Backpack. Genau, ich glaube, der kostet 215 €, ist mit Cirrus-Logo versehen. Und wenn ihr bis zum Schluss dabei bleibt, dann suchen wir mit unserem Zufallsgenerator einen der Kommentare, einen der Fragensteller aus. Und wenn der dann noch da ist, dann kriegt er das Ding zugeschickt, er oder sie natürlich. Das ist das eine, und das andere sehe ich bitte schon mal vorab um Entschuldigung, dass ich ab und zu hier in den Rechner gucke und ein bisschen Knöpfe drücke, weil ich gleichzeitig Regie führen muss. Deshalb müssen wir uns hier die Aufgaben so ein bisschen teilen. Okay, back to English. Ivy, you just announced that you're delivering the 9000th Cirrus SR or
yes.
Cirrus aircraft?
That's the 9000th Cirrus SR, so over our, I guess, 24, 25-year history, we have delivered over 9,000 SR series aircraft. Our first delivery of a limited edition 9,000th airplane to celebrate that milestone was actually delivered to a customer on Monday. Oh. And we just announced it this morning here at AERO23. There are 4 aesthetic exterior designs.
And I'll try to bring a picture while you explain them.
Please. Okay, so there are 4 aesthetic designs for the exterior and 2 different designs for the interior. You'll see basically there's a lava orange theme throughout the 4 different designs. We have actually made 13 limited edition airplanes available to customers. They sold out very quickly, and again, the first one delivered on Monday. So Thomas is just bringing up some pictures here. There you can see the top of the cowling, the 9 logo, and then that's the interior there with the 9000th logo on the headrest. That's the basalt interior, more black than orange. There's also a more orange than black interior that's a little flashier. And then the exteriors were really took their inspiration from the Mediterranean coast. So you've got this rich lava orange exterior. There's one that's a little bit more subtle called magma. It's more silvers, all 3-tone exteriors. There's one called Santorini with a lot of different blue tones in the exterior. And then there's a Balos with some really nice color combinations of a bright teal, green, blue, and silver.
So it's not only orange.
Not just orange, yes. If you hate orange, there are other options for you. Though there is a little orange theme throughout all of them.
So how many of those special editions are available?
So we actually made 13 of them. And they are all sold. Unfortunately, they've all been purchased already. But we will be celebrating that milestone throughout the year and bringing these customers together at various events and things to kind of bring those customers to kind of celebrate with each other, and then celebrate with Cirrus and all of our 9,000 customers to celebrate the milestone.
So will there be one in Germany or Europe?
I think there's 2 coming over to Europe. I'm not 100% sure exactly where they're going to land, but there's 2 heading across the Atlantic.
Right. Are there any news for the kind of the regular Cirrus? I believe you introduced a new configurator on your website lately where people can kind of build their own airplane.
Yeah.
Is there more freedom in configuring the airplanes than there used to be before, or what's the deal with that configurator?
Yeah, that's a great question. So There's a lot of options with your aesthetics when you pick up your SR. So with the configurator, it's very much like an automotive configurator where you can sort of choose what your paint lines look like, whether you'd like a flowier platinum paint line or an edgier sporty carbon paint line. And then you have access to all of the colors in our color palette. And then you can pair any of those colors with a silver wing or a white wing. And then that's completely independent of your interior. That's kind of on the premium carbon platinum tier. And then the next tier up is our special edition AERO23 paint scheme and aesthetic. That's a 3-tone exterior. There's a variety of colors that you can do. We introduced a couple new colors last year, the Mykonos and the Himalayan salt.
My favorite color name. It's pink.
Gorgeous. It's pink. So those colors are available. I would say that this year you probably have the most flexibility and the most color options than we've ever had before.
Now, it used to be in the old days that it was problematic to paint composite aircraft in dark colors or even black like you're doing now. How did you get around that problem? Because it would heat up the composite when the sun was shining on the black color.
Yeah, the paint, the sort of paint chemistry is really quite interesting. We work really closely with our paint manufacturer, Sherwin-Williams, to actually test the absorptivity of heat and the reflectivity of light and the formulation of the paint to include micas and metallics and things like that to get to the point where we can have those effect colors on both the wing and the fuselage. And because of the different properties of mica and the different properties of metallics, we've been able to kind of formulate paints darker and darker over the years. Kind of a little bit more education, a little bit more tweaking of the formulation and some difference in materials, introducing micas and things like that. We just have a lot more flexibility.
I'll switch to German briefly. Nur noch mal zur Erinnerung, weil noch ein paar dazugekommen sind. Bitte kommentiert, bitte stellt eure Fragen, denn das sichert euch die Gewinnchance auf unser Backpack hier, das wir am Ende des Streams dann verlosen unter denen, die dann noch da sind und die einen Kommentar abgegeben haben. Right. Asking them to comment and win and ask questions. People love the colors, they're saying. So Sebastian and Ralph are full of praise.
If anyone has any suggestions on colors that they'd like to see, I'm taking suggestions.
All right. Okay.
For the future.
I mean, the general features that you introduced over the years, those features that kind of go beyond just airplane and avionics. I'm thinking of, the remote unlock, the Cirrus IQ and all that stuff. That's all standard now? Or is that something that you only have in the upper tiers of the aircraft equipment?
So it depends on the model. So the Cirrus IQ is standard on the airplane at the moment. And we are continuing to upgrade the app on the phone, so the remote app, and we're kind of continuing to develop and add features to that app. The remote unlock is standard on some models, not standard on some other models, so we're sort of really continuing to drive towards a better and better user experience and a better ownership experience where you're more integrated to your plane, whether you're in your plane or you're absent from your plane, you're disconnected from your plane.
There's a question from Sky Scout that I want to pick up on in a moment, but before we do that, so of those 9,000 airplanes, do you have any idea how many are flying in Europe or even in Germany?
Oh my gosh, of the 9,000 total in the fleet.
Just ballpark.
I'd say ballpark, there's probably on the order of 1,000, 1,500
in Europe. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and so Sky Scout is asking availability of avgas and pricing is kind of becoming more and more difficult, and he's asking for a turboprop.
Okay.
But diesel might also be something we want to discuss because we're seeing more and more small turboprops here at the show. I mean, so.
I was expecting more softball questions.
Right.
Send me an easy one. No, it's a question on top of everyone's mind. It's something near and dear to our hearts at Cirrus, trying to find solutions. So a couple of things. we are working very closely with the Eagle initiative in the U.S., trying to look towards an unleaded future. So there's essentially 4 fuels that are being considered through this Eagle process. One of them has an FAA STC. So we're supporting, testing, doing what we can to be engaged in that process to look for an unleaded fuel. In the meantime, we're working with Continental and Lycoming to look for solutions for our 9,000 existing planes, as well as our future planes. So, solutions on the power plant side.
Because you just can't re-engine 9,000 airplanes that are out there.
It's a little tough, right? Yeah. So we're working very closely with the engine manufacturers to take care of our existing customers on that front, and to support future customers. And then we're also kind of looking for what can we actually do with fuel distribution, and working with the EU Commission on the regulation that's in place to ban the import of tetraethylene. Mm-hmm. We're working with the European fuel producers to help them apply for a REACH authorization so that they can continue to import the tetraethylene.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
We're kind of working it on a regulatory front, we're working on a testing front, and we're working it from a hardware front with our engine manufacturers. So I have nothing concrete to say, like, we're going to introduce this power plant in this time frame, but trust me, we're concerned about it, we're working on it, and we're kind of taking a 3-pronged approach to finding multiple solutions to support our existing and our future customers.
Why we're talking about engines? Mm-hmm. That Continental thingy with the little snap rings that were installed the wrong way around, is that all done for Cirrus, or are you still working the problem?
So there was quite a few aircraft and engines affected by that. We've worked through the lion's share of those issues. It's basically an inspection. I don't have the stats off the top of my head with how many we found during the inspections, but we've gotten through the lion's share of inspections. I think we did a really good job in combination with Continental getting out in front of that issue, communicating with customers, getting the inspections scheduled, getting information out to customers on how to handle it. And we're kind of continue to work through all of the inspections, but we've made a ton of progress.
But it's all under warranty, and people get
yeah,
it.
Of course.
Let it pay. You take care of all that.
Yes. Of course.
Okay. Robert, sorry for leaving you here for
That's
so long,
okay.
but I'll come back to
has
you
a
in a
lot
moment.
of important things to say.
There is one question that I found interesting. Oh, Peter, yes. Peter's asking, is the Cirrus upgrade program still available also for the new colors? Is there a Cirrus upgrade program?
I'm not sure. I'll upgrade your plane anytime.
But there's no specific upgrade program where you trade in your old airplane or something like that?
There's nothing formal in place where, you would just trade in your airplane like you would trade in your car. But we work with a couple of pre-owned sales professionals. So Lone Mountain and Arista are the 2 bigger pre-owned
in the U.S.
folks that we work. Lone Mountain actually over here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as well. So, but we work through them to facilitate getting you into a new airplane, right? So it's not exactly like a drop your keys, pick up your new keys trade-in program, but it is a pretty seamless process that we facilitate to move you from your existing plane to a new plane.
Right. So is the turbo, the kind of the turbo top of the line model still the best selling one?
Absolutely. It's about 50% of our sales.
Right. And then the SR-20, you re-engined that a few years back with a Lycoming engine.
Yep.
Yes. And clearly aiming it at the training market more than it may have been before. Mm-hmm. And did that work out?
It's actually worked out great. We've got a lot of new fleet customers. United Aviate is probably the biggest one in the U.S.
That's what used to be Lufthansa's flight school out there in Goodyear, right?
Yep, out there in Goodyear. They're doing some great work. They've got over 50 airplanes out there, so they're flying a ton. The Lycoming engine's been very well received, so it's doing well in the training environment for sure.
Right. Okay. Now let's check this one, and then we have the perfect transition question to the jet in a moment. Is a fixed oxygen system on demand like Mountain High planned? in the turbo. Okay, so the question I believe is, you have these on-demand systems that you can attach to the oxygen system that's in, so there's an oxygen system in the turbo.
Yes.
But it doesn't
And
have
it's available for the SR-22 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't have the on-demand part built into the aircraft.
That's correct.
Is that something that you're planning? That's the question.
Interesting question. That's not on the roadmap at the moment. Something to consider for sure. But currently that on-demand system is sort of a little bit more of a personal choice of how you want to deliver, the mechanism you want to deliver from the oxygen manifolds to your nose.
Most people put it in the armrest thing, the box there in the middle.
Box in the actual console, yeah.
All right. Anything coming up avionics-wise, or are you happy with the Perspective Plus, which is your derivative of the Garmin, what's it called, Garmin G1000 NXi?
Yep, the NXi. So, Garmin has been an extremely strategic partner throughout our entire history. In fact, we've never delivered an SR series airplane without Garmin avionics. So recall that even the Avidyne had the 430s in there. So, over the years, we've evolved the avionics in partnership with Garmin. I can't see that changing in the future. So,
Garmin has introduced that feature, and the name escapes me right now, where you, if the engine fails or so, you can press a button and it guides you to the next runway or so.
Yep.
Is that something that you're introducing? Smart Light, that's what it's called.
Yep.
Is that something you're planning on introducing? Because the policy in a Cirrus when the engine fails is you probably want to pull the parachute.
It's definitely something that we're discussing with Garmin. We know that technology is available. It's a little bit more of a kind of a philosophical discussion than a technical discussion. So,
yeah, because that brings us to the transition question by Heribert, which is, does Cirrus offer an Autoland option? On the SR?
Do.
No.
On the jet.
Yes, Robert.
Yes.
There you are.
Every Vision jet comes with Autoland.
Right.
We call it safe return.
You call it safe return. It's not a little piloty looking button, which I really like, under a glass cover, which looks dangerous and passengers don't want to press.
Right.
But it's a big friendly red button in the ceiling.
Right. It's available to any passenger or pilot, co-pilot in the airplane.
Right.
Push that button. It's certified with the FAA in the U.S. and with the EASA.
Right.
So it takes you home, and my mother also likes it quite a bit.
Right. So the basic idea is, let's say the pilot has any kind of medical trouble, or something happens that makes the pilot incapacitated.
Right. Exactly.
Then passengers press that button.
Well, you see the videos and the ATC audio on YouTube of people trying to land a plane themselves they've never flown.
Right.
And now you don't have to worry about that if you've ever put yourself in those shoes.
And it is really amazing. We do have a video on our YouTube channel where we tried it first, actually, 3 years ago or so in Oshkosh. That was before pandemic, right?
Yep.
And it's really amazing. The airplane even does the radio work and announces that you're coming in, selects an instrument approach and lands, right?
And it optimizes for terrain, weather, runway length, and then it also notifies the passengers in the cabin exactly what's going on, communicates with you as well as air traffic
relax,
control.
lean back, enjoy the...
Right.
Yeah, not quite that, but something like that. Yes.
Try to relax.
Yeah. And it brakes on the runway, right?
It
doesn't
does.
switch off the engine, but it brakes on the runway and tells you how to egress.
Right. All you have to do is open the door and walk away.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing technology.
It is amazing, yes. There has been the first parachute landing, quote, finger quotes, off a jet, right?
Right, that's true.
So the parachute system in the jet, which is quite more substantial than in the SR, obviously, it does work.
Well, we knew it worked.
Yeah, right.
We had tested it, but we had 2 caps pulls in, you would say, the wild in the past year, which, in the number of airplanes we're producing and the number of pilots we're creating and type rating, eventually that will happen.
Right.
And luckily, both caps pulls were successful and everyone survived. So we're proud and happy about that.
Now, the way the parachute system works in the jet is that the system tries to slow the jet down before the parachute actually gets fired, if I understand it correctly?
That's right, yeah.
And there were some issues with that, right? Are those resolved?
Yeah, so we did have some issues, as you pointed out, that has been investigated and kind of released the fix for that, and we're working through the service bulletin to correct that issue.
Right.
So it's all on the up and up.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of numbers, as we did before, how many jets are flying in Europe? Do you have any idea?
In Europe, so I would say we're getting close to 500 jets produced overall in the history, which we're not quite at 9,000 yet with the SR, but we're pretty proud of. And Europe represents about 20% of our market. And
so
Germany
that would make it about 100.
Right.
Right.
So Europe is very important to us, especially Germany. And we're not quite at the numbers that SR has in Europe, but we're fighting to get there.
Right. There's several good questions coming in.
Okay.
One is, Sky Scout says, please stay with the button philosophy, don't switch to touchscreens. Now, you have touchscreens in the jet, right?
Yes, we do.
There's like 3 small touchscreen controllers
That's
that then
correct.
Control the big screens, which are not touchscreens.
Correct.
Yeah.
You got that right.
So I never found it cumbersome to use in the jet.
This viewer doesn't like it.
Yeah, he likes buttons.
Okay, I understand.
Which, yeah.
I felt I've also thought I liked buttons, and then I got to work at Cirrus and got to fly the jet with the touchscreens, and was very amazed at how easy it is and how well it works.
In my opinion, there's a big difference between having a big screen, a PFD, MFD with, which is touch, which is big, and you need to kind of hit the right thing.
In a big
Whereas
area.
with the small touchscreen controllers, you can kind of rest your hand on the frame, and then touch something, even in turbulence. I think that's an important difference.
Cirrus cares a lot about pilot integration and pilot experience, so when we put a touchscreen controller in an airplane, we think exactly about how your hand's going to use it, how simple it's going to be to operate.
Right.
So I promise it's a good experience if this guy wants to come try it out.
But probably what Sky Scout is aiming at is any plans to introduce something like the G2000, so a touchscreen panel in the SR?
That's a great question.
You could tell me, but then you'd have to shoot me.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't divulge all of the secrets.
Of course. Yep. Pascal is asking for, going away from the jet and even away from the SR. He's asking about something you did years back. Any plans to introduce something like an LSA or ultralight aircraft?
So that's also a great question. I think a lot of people have seen information about the AG100 that AVIC has come out with. That was actually a project that AVIC, our shareholder, contracted for us to sort of design, build, certify, and then hand over to them. They hand that finished product over to them for the Chinese market.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see that in the Chinese market. We don't have any plans to commercialize that outside of China.
Got it. And there's more questions. Oh yeah, good question by Stefan. Is a FADEC system planned for the SR series, possibly as a retrofit?
Is it bad for the SR series, or is it planned?
No, FADEC. FADEC, yeah.
More great technology. I mean, the thing is, there are a lot of things that Cirrus is exploring and continues to explore. What's very interesting about Cirrus is that we've got a lot of strategic suppliers. We're always open to new ideas, new technologies, and we've got a dedicated advanced development group that's working on future technologies and how we can integrate them into the product line. Some of them seem really cool, and we get them in-house, and we get almost up to the finish line, and then we discover something that makes us realize that commercialization of that doesn't make sense. Right. Sometimes we get them in and it doesn't make sense at all right away, and we toss it out the side. And sometimes we actually bring them to market. So the answer to all of these questions is yes, we're working on all of these things. I think that the real question is, will all of these things be commercialized? I think that just remains to be seen on how our development process goes and what we deem worthy of commercialization once they get past that advanced development group integration.
Right, yeah. So the Cirrus jet to date is mostly flown by private individuals, right? I would envision it to also be kind of a cool air taxi type thing. Why hasn't that taken off?
Well, I disagree. I think it has taken off.
It has? Okay.
We have a pretty large partner in the United States, Verojet, that owns quite a few aircraft, operates quite a few aircraft. And that's a market that we're very interested in getting into, and we're focusing a lot of attention on. I think it's also a size of an airplane that air carrier operators haven't thought of as an option for them. So a lot of it, I think, is educating and having people think differently about how they run their business and how they run that operation. But I think it's a perfect product.
And then regulatory-wise, it's probably more of an issue in Europe, maybe more problematic, but still, it could probably be worked around.
In Europe, there's regulations that have been challenging to work through because I don't think when regulations were written, they were thinking of a single-engine jet airplane.
Right.
A lot of people weren't until it came out. So, but we're working through those challenges because it's important to us and it's important to our customers that they get resolved and ease of operation in Europe.
Yeah. So Heribert is coming back to the Autoland questions.
Okay.
How about for the SR? And for the SR, probably your answer would be there is the cap system, the parachute. Is that the answer to the Autoland? So if I, as a pilot, became incapacitated in an SR, you would advise the passengers to pull the parachute?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is not that, because Autoland, it involves auto throttle, auto brakes.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of nuance to an Autoland system or the safe return system.
Yeah.
The jet was very conducive to getting that done with, the FADEC engine, no propeller, a lot of technology, that sort of thing. It's a little bit more of a complex problem to solve for the SR, and we do have the parachute. So, the parachute is a great solution for a compromised airplane or a compromised pilot. Yeah. And it's a solution that passengers can enact. Passengers can reach up and pull that handle. Its success has been demonstrated over
That's what I was about to say. It has proven itself
Yep,
in those situations. Yeah. Anything we should have talked about that I didn't ask?
I think you covered it all.
Okay.
You've got a great crowd on the website.
Yeah, thanks for all those questions. Danke für die,
thank you.
Danke für die Fragen. Yep. And now we're going to raffle off that wonderful backpack here. Let me switch on my whatever the English word is that just escapes me.
Ivy, would you like to model the backpack again? Would you like to model it?
Yep, model the backpack. Yep, why not? Yep. And the winner is Stefan Schäfer. Stefan, if you could. Yep, Stefan, 2 requests. 1, please comment again to make sure you're still there. And then please send your contact details to that email address. Also, Stefan Schäfer hat ihn gewonnen. Herzlichen Glückwunsch. Bitte einmal noch kommentieren, das wäre super. Und bitte die Kontaktdaten an redaktion@fliegermagazin.de. Dann können wir das Ding rausschicken und dich versorgen mit dem Gewinn. Herzlichen Glückwunsch nochmal. Und da ist er. Er freut sich. Alles klar. He's delighted, joyful, whatever. Okay. Ja, dann sind wir auch schon am Ende unseres Livestreams. Zur Erinnerung, wir sind morgen nochmal live um 11 und um 17 Uhr, heute Abend um 17 Uhr auch. Ihr seid herzlich willkommen, Facebook, YouTube, wie hier auch. Für jetzt verabschieden wir uns erstmal. Thank you very much to both of you, Ivy, Robert. Thank you. Thanks for watching us, thanks for listening in, and see you soon. Have a great show, you two.